time zone, everyone. We are late, but always great. Welcome back to another Cinephilia Sweet Streaming Day. Hi, Claire. Hi, Junior. Hello. I just had to run up and down the stairs for a minute. Oh, I also forgot to turn my light on. Oopsies. That's okay. I had to wait like 20 minutes just to make sure that I wasn't gonna have to go out real quick right after I started stream. But we're good now. How is everyone today? Take a sip of my water. Quenchy. Quenchy. Alright. Let me get that light turned on. Actually. Okay, that's much better. You're on a roll. You're on a roll for what? You're on a roll. Have you been working on a lot of things? You spent so much on Pecco? So much. How much did you spend on Pecco? How much? Give us the numbers. Give us a number. Give us a number. Let me reach down for my book. I got it. 16 subs at $8.99 Australian each. Australian. Got 2 models done, bills paid, got Raphael's new card in lads. Ooh. I've been slacking. I've been slacking on the lads. I need to get back into it. I keep saying I need to get back into it, and then I never do. Once I put something down, it's hard to pick it back up again. And you're gonna go out for a coffee with friends in a few hours? Ooh, very nice, very nice. All my friends are busy. I don't have anyone to go out with, except my boyfriend. What have you been doing these past few days? I have been working on the hairstyle. Ooh, you can take as long as you need to on that. You're good. Ah, my ears. What have I been doing these past 5 days? I have been working on scripts. Excuse you, I spent 2 whole days working on script bundles, okay? I finally wrote up my my lore, like a little short story of my lore. I finally wrote that up. I have been working on some things for the VTuber that I have been managing content for. What else have I done? Oh yeah, I have been working on some future stream updates concerning notifications. Not notifications, alerts. Bananas! Inconveniently placed banana. Thank you, Junior. Thank you. And also, I don't think you can count 5 days because Sundays are always my off days for planning, okay? Sundays are my planning days. You know that. You know that. So, it's actually 4 days. 4 days. Sundays are the Lord's day, yeah, and the Lord is me. I am the Lord. Bow down and worship me. Sundays are the Lord's day, apparently. Yeah. Hi, Sam. How are you? Salam alaikum. Joined at the perfect time. When did you start the bow down and worshiping? Hi, Chris. Just finished your workout. How about like what? Oh, lunchtime. I had grilled cheese. Oh, also yesterday I started working on the lyrics for my parody to Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, but about streamers. So I did start working on the lyrics for that. An ad already? Oh, not even 10 minutes in. We're snoozing that. Thank you. How are you? I'm good. I'm fine. Just doing our beginning of stream updates. Today we're going to be reading a different book today. We have been reading, what was it called? The Art of Gold Digging on Royal Road. However, today we're going to swap over to Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. The novel. Why the novel? Because... No! Stop this! Stop this! That's terrible. That's worse than chewing in my ears. I'm gonna read the Jurassic Park novels because it's very scary. It's very scary. Much more horror. You come to the pool party? When is the pool party? When you still have to clean it and fill it up first, don't you? Yeah. Also, actually maybe I should keep the goal up there too. We're gonna do my painting stream next week. The painting stream that I promised once I hit 75 subscribers. Painting stream. We're at 87, you guys. That's so cool. It's so amazing. So I'm gonna do my painting stream next week. I just don't know what I'm going to paint yet. So go into the Discord and drop me ideas on what I should paint on my canvas. Shut up. Here, I'll make it bigger. I'll make it bigger for you. There you go. There, it's bigger for you now. Now you can read it. Now you can read it better. Little tiny eye people. I also have a tip goal now. I'm gonna lean more in towards tips now because I have better access to them and I don't have to revenue share. I have more immediate access to these. So for the goal is $500. However, I don't really expect to hit $500. The money is going towards helping me to replenish supplies for my arts and crafts streams. So my painting streams and also my little clay model streams. Yeah, tiny eye people. Tiny eye people. You're all tiny eye people compared to me. I am the legendary Bakunawa. I am massive. I'm huge. I'm so large I can eat the moon. I can just shrink myself down to people size. Bro, you see my eye. Yeah, listen, okay, listen. Out of all you tiny eye people, okay, Satam has the biggest eyes. Okay, his eyes are huge. He's got big eyes. Sam's got huge eyes. He's like, ooh, look into my soul. Look into my soul. I'll stare right back into yours too. It's true. It's true. I'm hoping that you guys don't hear the lawnmower outside later when the little neighborhood kids come through to mow the lawn. Supposed to get a text message when they're on their way. They're doing it's so listen, paying professional people would be so expensive, but you just need to live in a neighborhood that's got teenagers in it, and they'll come through every summer they'll come through and be like, hey, do you want your lawn mowed? And they'll do the front and back for like $60, right? Snooze. Got the blep face on. Blep. Blep, blep. Blep. Should I get a model that has have the tongue stick out? Like, I can't do it on this one because it doesn't have that. It's a good deal. It is a good deal. It is a good deal. So they're gonna do it for 60 today, because the grass is quite long. But they're going to come back another time for a second mow through for like $50. So childish. You know, I want, you know what? Now I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get the dangly tongue. Mocap model I'm making will have blep. It'll have the blep! Ooh. Ooh, Claire's the goated. Claire's the goat. Haha. I can't wait to see that when it's done. Blep. Yeah. May I get your PNG as well? Oh yeah. One second. I'll send that to you right now. Hold on. Where is the claro? There it is. And then, where is my PNG R2? It's taking a while to open. Okay, stream folder. R2. There. Okay, I send it. And then I close you. Just cracked the fuck out of your back. 0 out of 10. I didn't burp. No, I didn't. I didn't burp. That wasn't a burp. I didn't burp. I heard you. No, you didn't. You didn't hear anything because I didn't burp. Na 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 na, but no, bananas. You think banana is a punishment? It is not. No, it is not. Ooh, okay, actually, this is what I get for asking last minute. So, okay, We need to know. What would be a good kind of audio background for reading the Jurassic Park novel? Should I stick with the usual, just rainy, stormy background? Or should I try something different? I thought maybe I should try something different, but now I don't know. Maybe I'll just stick with the rainy background. Rain and the thunder. I wonder if there's a good long. Actually, let me look. Let me look. There's a Jurassic Park ASMR channel. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. 1 second. Give me 1 second. I gotta hear this. I gotta hear this. Hold on. Did you beat... Huh? Did I... I think this might work. This might be good. Let me see. The audio. Yeah. Okay. I think that might work. That might actually be a good thing. Don't tell me you got a good thing for me. Did I be... Did I be what? I can't think of what that is. What could it be? What does it mean? What have I played that starts with a C? Have I beat... What does it mean? Have I beat what? I can't think of what it is. Have I beat what? Oh, Cult of the Lamb. We were on... So we beat all of the guys, and then it opened up another half of the game where you have to go through and beat them again in order to put them to eternal rest, because now they are unrestful spirits? Question mark. Because we beat all of them, and then we beat the death god, but we didn't kill the death god. I don't think. Did we kill the death god, or did we spare the death god and make him one of my slaves? I don't remember. We killed the death god, and then we had to... Yeah, and then we opened up the thing, so we have to kill all of them again. But I don't think we can play it right now because my laptop is dying. So I can't really play games that require me to not stutter until I get a new computer, which will be a while. So I can only really play like visual novels right now, and probably that game that you showed me also. Yeah. And Stardew Valley. Gumbus. Don't smack your lips at me like that. Take that. Ha. What are you gonna do about it? You ain't gonna do nothing. You ain't gonna do nothing about it. That's what. That's what. Plot twist, I find it funny. The plots are just twisted in every direction. Ooh, did that actually follow me? Hold on. Oh, that's actually pretty good. Mouth following. Why is this so funny? Okay, I'm done. I'm done. No! No! You can do what? You can do something about it? You ain't gonna do shit. You ain't gonna do shit. Alright, so let me look at where the actual start of this is. Actually, oh, okay, so there's like an introduction and then a prologue. Wait, introduction, a prologue, first iteration. Oh, okay, that's just a scribbly line doodad. Okay. Let's see, how many pages is in this book? Let's see. Epilogue, including the epilogue. There are 458 pages. Monty, hello. Hiyo. Bubbles, only 25 cents. Only 25 cents. You get one per stream. There are 458 pages in Jurassic Park, not including the introduction. So 59, 60, 61, 62, 462. Wow! Wow, thank you for the gifted sub for Munti. Thank you. Congratulations, Munti. You have become one of my precious little abysslings. You're moving up in life. I need a bookmark for this. Hold on. Bookmark. What can I use as a bookmark for now? I don't see anything here that I can use. Down here, maybe. Have notepads. So many notepads. I could use this NARF thing. Yes, it is the one and only Janitor Junior. Janitor Junior. Yes. Munti, you're just in time. We're going to read Jurassic Park today. Gotta get comfy. I wish I had a comfier chair to stream in. It would be so nice for my little ASMR reading streams. Hopefully by next week I'll have an idea of what I should paint. Actually, maybe I'll get an idea from Jurassic Park. There's a bone-shaped chair that you want. It's shaped like what kind of bone though? Like what, like the pelvis? You want to sit in a pelvis? Actually, a pelvis-shaped chair would be pretty comfortable, I think. It's just the right shape. There's a difference between a bone-shaped chair and a chair made of bone-looking pieces. Ooh, pelvis. Ooh. Pelvis chair. It's like sitting in a lap, a bony lap. You just have to make it cushy yourself. Okay, let me go ahead and turn this off, and then I'm going to swap us over to ASMR. We can absolutely keep chatting, but we're also going to be reading our book. And now we'll turn on. Yeah. Okay. No! It's like a dinosaur. What kind of dinosaur is that? Alright. Today we are reading Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park. Is do you need me to turn down the background audio, or is the volume fine? Because I need to know these things. Maybe 30. Ah, just a little bit lower. How's this? I think, is this good? Okay. The InGen incident. The late 20th century has witnessed a scientific gold rush of astonishing proportions. The headlong and furious haste to commercialize genetic engineering. This enterprise has proceeded so rapidly, with so little outside commentary, that its dimensions and implications are hardly understood at all. It's 100 because I don't want it to get obnoxious. Biotechnology promises the greatest revolution in human history. By the end of this decade, it will have outdistanced atomic power and computers in its effect on our everyday lives. In the words of one observer, biotechnology is going to transform every aspect of human life. Our medical care, our food, our health, our entertainment, our very bodies. Nothing will ever be the same again. It's literally going to change the face of the planet. But the biotechnology revolution differs in 3 important respects from past scientific transformations. First, it is broad-based. America entered the atomic age through the work of a single research institution at Los Alamos. It entered the computer age through the efforts of about a dozen companies, but biotechnology research is now carried out in more than 2,000 laboratories in America alone. 500 corporations spend $5 billion a year on this technology. Second, much of the research is thoughtless or frivolous. Efforts to engineer paler trout for better visibility in the stream, square trees for easier lumbering, and injectable scent cells so you'll always smell of your favorite perfume may seem like a joke, but they are not. Indeed, the fact that biotechnology can be applied to the industries traditionally subject to the vagaries of fashion, such as cosmetics and leisure activities, heightens concern about the whimsical use of this powerful new technology. Third, the work is uncontrolled. No one supervises it. No federal laws regulate it. There is no coherent government policy in America or anywhere else in the world. And because the products of biotechnology range from drugs to farm crops to artificial snow, an intelligent policy is difficult. But most disturbing is the fact that no watchdogs are found among scientists themselves. It is remarkable that nearly every scientist in genetics research is also engaged in the commerce of biotechnology. There are no detached observers. Everybody has a stake. The commercialization of molecular biology is the most stunning ethical event in the history of science, and it has happened with astonishing speed. For 400 years since Galileo, science has always proceeded as a free and open inquiry into the workings of nature. Scientists have always ignored national boundaries, holding themselves above the transitory concerns of politics and even wars. Scientists have always rebelled against secrecy in research, and have even frowned on the idea of patenting their discoveries, seeing themselves as working to benefit all of mankind. And for many generations, the discoveries of scientists did indeed have a peculiarly selfless quality. When, in 1953, two young researchers in England, James Watson and Francis Crick, deciphered the structure of DNA, their work was hailed as a triumph of the human spirit, of the centuries-old quest to understand the universe in a scientific way. It was confidently expected that their discovery would be selflessly extended to the greater benefit of mankind. Yet that did not happen. 30 years later, nearly all of Watson and Crick's scientific colleagues were engaged in another sort of enterprise entirely. Research in molecular genetics had become a vast, multi-billion-dollar commercial undertaking, and its origins can be traced not to 1953, but to April 1976. That was the date of a now famous meeting in which Robert Swanson, a venture capitalist, approached Herbert Boyer, a biochemist at the University of California. I'm gonna fall asleep. You're always falling asleep. It's 2 in the morning for you, Junior. The two men agreed to found a commercial company to exploit Boyer's gene splicing techniques. Their new company, Gene and Tech? I'd have no idea how that's supposed to say. Gene and Tech quickly became the largest and most successful of the genetic engineering startups. Suddenly, it seemed as if everyone wanted to become rich. New companies were announced almost weekly, and scientists flocked to exploit genetic research. By 1986, at least 362 scientists, including 64 in the National Academy, sat on the advisory board of biotech firms. The number of those who held equity positions or consultancies was several times greater. It is necessary to emphasize how significant this shift in attitude actually was. In the past, pure scientists took a snobbish view of business. They saw pursuit of money as intellectually uninteresting, suited only to shopkeepers, and to do research for industry, even at the prestigious Bell or IBM labs, was only for those who couldn't get a university appointment. Thus, the attitude of pure scientists was fundamentally critical toward the work of applied scientists and to industry in general. Their long-standing antagonism kept university scientists free of contaminating industry ties, and whenever debate arose about technological matters, disinterested scientists were available to discuss the issues at the highest levels. But that is no longer true. There are very few molecular biologists and very few research institutions without commercial affiliations. The old days are gone. genetic research continues at a more furious pace than ever, but it is done in secret and in haste and for profit. In this commercial climate, it is probably inevitable that a company as ambitious as International Genetic Technologies, Inc. of Palo Alto would arise. It is equally unsurprising that the genetic crisis it created should go unreported. After all, InGen's research was conducted in secret. The actual incident occurred in the most remote region of Central America, and fewer than 20 people were there to witness it. Of those, only a handful survived. Even at the end, when International Genetic Technologies filed for Chapter 11 protection in San Francisco Superior Court on October 5, 1989, the proceedings drew little press attention. It appeared so ordinary. InGen was the third small American bioengineering company to fail that year, and the seventh since 1986. Few court documents were made public, since the creditors were Japanese investment consortia such as Hamaguri and Densaka companies were traditionally shunned publicity. To avoid unnecessary disclosure, Daniel Ross of Cowen, Swain, and Ross, counsel for InGen, also represented the Japanese investors, and the rather unusual petition of the Vice Consul of Costa Rica was heard behind closed doors. Thus, it is not surprising that, within a month, the problems of InGen were quietly and amicably settled. Parties to that settlement, including the Distinguished Scientific Board of Advisors, signed a non-disclosure agreement, and none will speak about what happened. But many of the principal figures in the InGen incident are not signatories, and were willing to discuss the remarkable events leading up to those final 2 days in August 1989 on a remote island off the west coast of Costa Rica. We're on the prologue now. The Bites of the Raptor. The tropical rain fell in drenching sheets, hammering the corrugated roof of the clinic building, roaring down the metal gutters, splashing on the ground in a torrent. Roberta Carter sighed and stared out the window. From the clinic, she could hardly see the beach or the ocean beyond, cloaked in low fog. This wasn't what she had expected when she had come to the fishing village of Bahia Anasco, on the west coast of Costa Rica, to spend 2 months as a visiting physician. Bobby Carter had expected sun and relaxation. After 2 grueling years of residency in emerging medicine at the Michael Reese in Chicago, Koro! Hayo! Yes, Jurassic novel. Hello, thank you for the raid. Hello, Koro. Karya. Churio. Hello. Hayo. I'm reading the first one. I just started. I just started reading the prologue. Hapku, thank you so much for the follow. Good time, yeah, good timing, good timing. How was the rest of your stream? Did you did you did you defeat the did you defeat the clone? I bet you did because you're the best of them all, the best Pokemon master. Yes. Gemini, thank you for the follow. I am also a Gemini. My birthday was this month. Finished the game and now fevering towards anniversary on Tuesday. Oh, okay. Bye bye, Koro. Thank you again for the raid. Have a good one. Bye bye. I hope everyone likes reading books, and I hope you all like Jurassic Park. If you like Jurassic Park, stick around. We're just getting started reading the book. The first one. It's so hot where you are. Oh, I don't know what the temperature is today, but it's been kind of hot lately. Just a little bit. Jurassic Park. Hi, Jimmy. How are you? Favorite dinosaur? My favorite dinosaur. Oh. I like ocean dinosaurs, so uh I like the plesiosaurus and also the mosasaur. I like swimmy dinosaurs. Ooh, I also like the pachyosaur. Those are cool. They got interesting shape face and heads. Ooh, iguanodons and raptors. Ooh, scary. Do you like Spinosaurus too then? Ah, big scary. When I say swimming dinosaur, I mostly mean the ones that live in the ocean, live in the water. Not necessarily the ocean, but the ones that live in the water. I like the swimmy ones. But the pachyosaur I like too because it just looks interesting. Raptors are scary. Grizz's favorite is Triceratops. Oh, Triceratops look like just big spiky cows. Doing okay. I'm doing okay too. Just relaxing. Yeah, they're teeny little guys, but they're also ferocious. Rawr. Okay, where was I? Where was I? Ooh. She had been in Bahia Anasco now for 3 weeks, and it had rained every day. Depends on your raptor. When you think of raptor, what do you think of? Because I do know that there's a lot of different kinds, like the Utah raptor. That one's very scary looking. Jorkin. What are you jork? You know what? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Everything else was fine. She liked the isolation of Bahia Nasco and the friendliness of its people. Costa Rica had one of the 20 best medical systems in the world, and even in this remote coastal village, the clinic was well maintained, amply supplied. Her paramedic, Manuela Aragon, was intelligent and well trained. Bobby was able to practice a level of medicine equal to what she had practiced in Chicago. But the rain, the constant, unending rain. I feel like you have all the dinosaur knowledge. All of it. I bet you could talk my ear off about dinosaurs if you wanted to. Across the examining room, Manuel cocked his head. Manuel. I said Manuel. Manuel cocked his head. Listen, he said. Believe me, I hear it, Bobby said. No, listen. And then she caught it. Another sound blended with the rain. A deeper rumble that built and emerged until it was clear. Rhythmic thumping of a helicopter. She thought, they can't be flying in weather like this. But the sound built steadily, and then the helicopter burst low through the ocean fog and roared overhead, circled, and came back. She saw the helicopter swing back over the water, near the fishing boats, then ease sideways to the rickety wooden dock and back toward the beach. It was looking for a place to land. Manapua. Gonna lurk while you eat food. Oh, what are you eating? What are you eating? I love food. What are you eating? I want to know what you're eating. Tell me, 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 tell me. Manapua. Ha. Ha. Kari could definitely talk about dinosaurs till she dies. I love dinosaurs. They're so interesting. I won't say that I know a lot about dinosaurs, but I just love them. I just love them. You know, I used to want to be a paleontologist. and then later I was like, I want to be an archaeologist. But I was talked out of it. And then I was like, well, maybe architect. And then I was like, well, but I really like animals, so what if I went for marine biology? Because I like the ocean too. I have a respectfully healthy fear and love of the ocean. So that would have been cool. But I would have wanted to go to like Hawaii for that. But that was too expensive for me, so. And I didn't have the grades for like a scholarship. So I didn't end up doing that. You know what, if I could go back in time and like be the person I am now, I probably would have got better grades, and I probably could have gotten a scholarship, at least a partial scholarship, for doing marine biology in Hawaii. That would have been nice. Instead, I did the fallback of a fallback plan and got a business degree. So, I have a degree in business management, and I'm a certified project manager and business analyst. Currently, I use my skills for myself and also assisting one other VTuber. Where was I? Ahaha, it was looking for a place to land. It was a big-bellied Sikorsky with a blue stripe on the side, with the words Ingen Construction. That was the name of the construction company building a new resort on one of the offshore islands. The resort was said to be spectacular and very complicated. Many of the local people were employed in the construction, which had been going on for more than 2 years. Bobby could imagine it. One of those huge American resorts with swimming pools and tennis courts, where guests could play and drink their daiquiris, without having any contact with the real life of the country. Bobby had wondered what was so urgent on that island that the helicopter would fly in this weather. Through the windshield, she saw the pilot exhale. Mitchie, thank you for the head pats. Exhale in relief as the helicopter settled onto the wet sand of the beach. Uniformed men jumped out and flung open the big side door. She heard frantic shouts in Spanish, and Manuel nudged her. They were calling for a doctor. Two black crewmen carried a limp body toward her, while a white man barked orders. The white man had a yellow slicker. Red hair appeared around the edges of his Mets baseball cap. "Is there a doctor here?" he called to her as she ran up. "I'm Dr. Carter," she said. The rain fell heavy in the drops. Heavy in the drops. The rain fell in heavy drops, pounding her head and shoulders. The red-haired man frowned at her. She was wearing cut-off jeans and a tank top. She had a stethoscope over her shoulder. The bell already rusted from the salt air. "Ed Regis, we've got a very sick man here, doctor." "Then you better take him to San Jose," she said. San Jose was the capital, just 20 minutes away by air. "We would, but we can't get over the mountains in this weather. You have to treat him here." Bobby trotted alongside the injured man as they carried him to the clinic. He was a kid, no older than 18. Lifting away the blood-soaked shirt, she saw a big slashing rip along his shoulder and another on the leg. "What happened to him?" "Construction accident," Ed shouted. "He fell. One of the backhoes ran over him." The kid was pale, shivering, unconscious. Manuel stood by the bright green door of the clinic, waving his arm. The men brought the body through and set it on the table in the center of the room. Manuel started an intravenous line, and Bobby swung the light over the kid and bent to examine the wounds. Immediately she could see that it did not look good. The kid would almost certainly die. A big tearing laceration ran from his shoulder down his torso. At the edge of the wound, the flesh was shredded. At the center, the shoulder was dislocated, pale bones exposed. A second slash cut through the heavy muscle of the thigh, deep enough to reveal the pulse of the femoral artery below. Her first impression was that his leg had been ripped open. "Tell me again about this injury," she said. "I didn't see it," Ed said. "They say the backhoe dragged him." "Because it almost looks as if he was mauled," Bobby Carter said, probing the wound. Like most emergency room physicians, she could remember in detail patients she had seen even years before. She had seen 2 maulings. One was a 2-year-old child who had been attacked by a Rottweiler dog. The other was a drunken circus attendant who had an encounter with a Bengal tiger. Both injuries were similar. There was a characteristic look to an animal attack. This is already pretty graphic, and we're only in the prologue. This is gonna be great. Mauled, Ed said. No, it was a backhoe, believe me. Ed licked his lips as he spoke. He was edgy, acting as if he had done something wrong. Bobby wondered why. If they were using inexperienced local workmen on the resort construction, they must have accidents all the time. Manuel said, "Do you want lavage?" "Yes," she said. "After you block him."
I have arrived.
Hello, dog. She bent lower, probed the wound with her fingers. If an earth mover had rolled over him, dirt would be forced deep into the wound, but there wasn't any dirt, just a slippery, slimy foam. And the wound had a strange odor, a kind of rotten stench, a smell of death and decay. She had never smelled anything like this before. How long ago did this happen? An hour. Again she noticed how tense Ed Regis was. He was one of those eager, nervous types. And he didn't look like a construction foreman, more like an executive. He was obviously out of his depth. "We're doing good, dog. We're just reading the Jurassic Park." "How are you?" Bobby Carter turned back to his injuries. Somehow, she didn't think she was seeing mechanical trauma. It just didn't look right. No soil contamination of the wound site, and no crush injury component. Mechanical trauma of any sort, an auto injury, a factory accident, almost always had some component of crushing. But here there was none. Instead, the man's skin was shredded, ripped across his shoulder, and again across his thigh. It really did look like a maul. On the other hand, most of the body was unmarked, which was unusual for an animal attack. She looked again at the head, the arms, the hands. She felt a chill when she looked at the kid's hands. There were short slashing cuts on both palms and bruises on the wrists and forearms. She had worked in Chicago long enough to know what that meant. "All right," she said. "Wait outside." "Why?" Ed said, alarmed. He didn't like that. "Melting in this heat today, but finally back inside. How hot is it where you are?" "It's not very hot over here, I don't think. Today it's 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Which is actually pretty nice." "Do you want me to help him or not?" she said.
Banana.
"Mary, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you." She pushed him out the door and closed it on his face. She didn't know what was going on, but she didn't like it. Manuel hesitated. I continued to wash. Yes, she said. She reached for her little Olympus point and shoot. She took several snapshots of the injury, shifting her light for a better view. It really did look like bites, she thought. Then the kid groaned, and he put her camera aside and bent towards him. His lips moved, his tongue thick. Raptor, he said. Velociraptor. At those words, Manuel froze, stepped back in horror. What does it mean? Bobby said. Manuel shook his head. I do not know, Doctor. Velociraptor. No es español. No? It sounded to her like Spanish. Then please continue to wash him. No, doctor. He wrinkled his nose. Bad smell, and he crossed himself. Bobby looked again at the slippery foam streaked across the wound. She touched it, rubbing it between her fingers. It seemed almost like saliva. The injured boy's lips moved. Raptor, he whispered. In a tone of horror, Manuel said, It bit him. What bit him? Raptor. What's a raptor? It means hupia. Bobby frowned. The Costa Ricans were not especially superstitious, but she had heard the hupia mentioned in the village before. There were said to be night ghosts, faceless vampires who kidnap small children. According to the belief, the hupia had once lived in the mountains of Costa Rica, but now inhabited the islands offshore. Manuel was backing away, murmuring and crossing himself. It is not normal, this smell, he said. It is the hupia. Bobby was about to order him back to work when the injured youth opened his eyes and sat straight up on the table. Manuel shrieked in terror. The injured boy moaned and twisted his head, looking left and right with wide staring eyes, and then he explosively vomited blood. He went immediately into convulsions, his body vibrating, and Bobby grabbed for him, but he shuddered off the table onto the concrete floor. He vomited again. There was blood everywhere. Ed opened the door saying, What the hell's happening? And when he saw the blood, he turned away, his hand to his mouth. Bobby was grabbing for a stick to put in the boy's clenched jaws, but even as she did it, she knew it was hopeless. And with the final spastic jerk, he relaxed and lay still. She bent to perform mouth to mouth, but Manuel grabbed her shoulder fiercely, pulling her back. No, he said. The hupia will cross over. Manuel, for God's sake. No, he stared at her fiercely. No, you don't understand these things. Bobby looked at the body on the ground and realized that it didn't matter. There was no possibility of resuscitating him. Manuel called for the men, who came back into the room and took the body away. Ed appeared, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, muttering, I'm sure you did all you could. And then she watched as the men took the body away, back to the helicopter, and it lifted thunderously up into the sky. It is better, Manuel said. Bobby was thinking about the boy's hands. They had been covered with cuts and bruises. in the characteristic pattern of defense wounds. She was quite sure he had not died in a construction accident. He had been attacked, and he had held up his hands against his attacker. "Where is this island they've come from?" she asked. "In the ocean, perhaps 120 miles offshore. Pretty far for a resort," she said. "Would I read any H.P. Lovecraft?" "Maybe, if I could find it. But I'm a bit strapped for cash right now. So any book requests that are made will wait until I can afford." Manuel watched the helicopter. "I hope they never come back." Well, she thought, at least she had pictures. But when she turned back to the table, she saw that her camera was gone. They stole her camera. The rain finally stopped later that night. Alone in the bedroom behind the clinic, Bobby thumbed through her tattered paperback Spanish dictionary. The boy had said raptor, and despite Manuel's protests, she suspected it was a Spanish word. Sure enough, she found it in her dictionary. It meant ravisher or abductor. That gave her pause. The sense of the word was suspiciously close to the meaning of hupya. Of course, she did not believe in the superstition, and no ghost had cut those hands. What had the boy been trying to tell her? From the next room, she heard groans. One of the village women was in the first stage of labor, and Elena Morales, the local midwife, was attending her. Bobby went into the clinic room and gestured to Elena to step outside for a moment. "Elena, see, doctor. Do you know what is a raptor?" Elena was gray-haired and 60. A strong woman with a practical, no-nonsense air. In the night, beneath the stars, she frowned and said, "Raptor." "Yes, you know this word." "Si," Elena nodded. "It means a person who comes in the night and takes away a child. A kidnapper." "Yes." "A hupya." Her whole manner changed. "Do not say this word, doctor." "Why not?" "Do not speak of hupya now," Elena said firmly, nodding her head toward the groans of the laboring woman. "It is not wise to say this word now." "But does a raptor bite and cut its victims?" "Bite and cut?" Elena said, puzzled. "No, doctor, nothing like this. A raptor is a man who takes a new baby." She seemed irritated by the conversation, impatient to end it. Elena started back toward the clinic. "I will call to you when she is ready, doctor. I think 1 hour more, perhaps 2. Bobby looked at the stars and listened to the peaceful lapping of the surf at the shore. In the darkness, she saw the shadows of the fishing boats anchored offshore. The whole scene was quiet, so normal, She felt foolish to be talking of vampires and kidnapped babies. Bobby went back to her room, remembering again that Manuel had insisted it was not a Spanish word. Out of curiosity, she looked in the little English dictionary, and to her surprise, she found the word there too. Raptor. Noun. Derivative of Latin. Raptor. Plunderer. Bird of prey. We have finished the prologue. I am going to go and refill my water real quick. And then we will start the first official chapter of Jurassic Park. Okay, I'm back. I have refilled my water. Yup, yahapko, hello. Welcome to the stream. Hiyo. See you. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've been censored. I think I might change the. I think I'm gonna take off the rest of her little chat screen in the background. I'll work on that later. Okay, this chapter is called Almost Paradise. Never get over that. I know, it's so good. Mike Bowman whispered cheerfully as he drove the Land Rover through the Cabo Blanco Biological Reserve on the west coast of Costa Rica. It was a beautiful morning in July, and the road before him was spectacular. Hugging the edge of a cliff, overlooking the jungle and the blue Pacific. A According to the guidebooks, Cabo Blanco was unspoiled wilderness, almost a paradise. Seeing it now made Bowman feel as if the vacation was back on track. Bowman, a 36-year-old real estate developer from Dallas, had come to Costa Rica with his wife and daughter for a 2-week holiday. The trip had actually been his wife's idea. For weeks, Ellen had filled his ear about the wonderful national parks of Costa Rica and how good it would be for Tina to see them. Then, when they arrived, it turned out Ellen had an appointment to see a plastic surgeon in San Jose. That was the first Mike Bowman had heard about the excellent and inexpensive plastic surgery available in Costa Rica. Of course. And all the luxurious private clinics in San Jose. Of course, they'd had a huge fight. Mike felt she'd lied to him, and she had. And he put his foot down about this plastic surgery business. Anyway, it was ridiculous. Ellen was only 30, and she was a beautiful woman. Hell, she'd been homecoming queen her senior year at Rice, and that was not even 10 years earlier. But Ellen tended to be insecure and worried, and it seemed as if in recent years she had mostly worried about losing her looks. That and everything else. The Land Rover bounced in a pothole, splashing mud. Seated beside him, Ellen said, "Mike, are you sure this is the right road? We haven't seen other people for hours." "There was another car 15 minutes ago," he reminded her. "Remember, the blue one." Going the other way. "Darling, you wanted a deserted beach," he said, "and that's what you're going to get." Ellen shook her head doubtfully. "I hope you're right." "Yeah, Dad, I hope you're right," said Christina from the back seat. She was 8 years old. "Trust me, I'm right." He drove in silence a moment. "It's beautiful, isn't it? Look at the view. It's beautiful." "It's okay," Tina said. Ellen got out a compact and looked at herself in the mirror, pressing under her eyes. She sighed and put the compact away. The road began to descend, and Mike Bowman concentrated on driving. Suddenly, a small black shape flashed across the road, and Tina shrieked, "Look! Look!" Then it was gone, into the jungle. "What was it?" Ellen asked. "A monkey?" "Maybe a squirrel monkey," Bowman said. "Can I count it?" Tina said, taking her pencil out. She was keeping a list of all the animals she had seen on her trip as a project for school. "I don't know," Mike said doubtfully. Tina consulted the pictures in the guidebook. "I don't think it was a squirrel monkey," she said. "I think it was just another howler." They had seen several howler monkeys already on their trip.
Banana.
RC Monster, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you, thank you. "Hey," she said more brightly. "According to this book, the beaches of Cabo Blanco
I have arrived.
are frequented by a variety of wildlife, including howler and white-faced monkeys, three-toed sloths, and codamindus. You think we'll see a three-toed sloth, Dad?" "Thank you. Hello. Welcome in. How are you?" "I bet we do." "Really?" "Just look in the mirror." Dad jokes. "Very funny, Dad." "I'm doing okay, thank you." just reading Jurassic Park for the first time. I've seen the movies several times, but I've never read the books. As I finally was able to get my hands on them, I got them as a birthday gift. So now we're reading them, and I have heard that they are quite a lot more graphic and horror-some. So I'm really excited to see just how much more terrifying the novels are. The road sloped downward through the jungle, toward the ocean. Mike Bowman felt like a hero when they finally reached the beach. A 2-mile crescent of white sand, utterly deserted. He parked the Land Rover on the shade of the palm trees that fringed the beach and got out the box lunches. Ellen changed into her bathing suit, saying, "Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to get this weight off." "You look great, hun." Actually, he felt that she was too thin, but he had learned not to mention that. Tina was already running down the beach. "Don't forget you need your sunscreen," Ellen called. "Later," Tina shouted over her shoulder. "I'm going to see if there's a sloth." Ellen Bowman looked around at the beach and the trees. "You think she's all right?" "Honey, there's nobody here for miles," Mike said. "What about snakes?" "Oh, for God's sakes," Mike Bowman said. "There's no snakes on the beach." "Well, there might be." "How's the novel?" "We're pretty good. I'm noticing that this part of the novel, they used it partially in one of the later Jurassic Park movies. The family who stumbled upon the island on a yacht trip. I recognize some of the lines from the movie. I believe the second movie. But they did change a few things. "Honey," he said firmly, "snakes are cold-blooded. They're reptiles. They can't control their body temperature. It's 90 degrees on that sand. If a snake came out, it'd be cooked. Believe me, there's no snakes on the beach." He watched his daughter scampering down the beach, a dark spot on the white sand. "Let her go. Let her have a good time." He put his arm around his wife's waist. "What did you eat?" Tina ran until she was exhausted, and then she threw herself down on the sand and gleefully rolled to the water's edge. The ocean was warm, and there was hardly any surf at all. She sat for a while, catching her breath, and then she looked back toward her parents in the car to see how far she had come. Her mother waved, beckoning her to return. Tina waved back cheerfully, pretending she didn't understand. Tina didn't want to put sunscreen on, and she didn't want to go back and hear her mother talk about losing weight. She wanted to stay right here and maybe see a sloth. Tina had seen a sloth 2 days earlier in the zoo at San Jose. It looked like a Muppets character, and it seemed so harmless. In any case, it couldn't move fast. She could easily outrun it. Now her mother was calling to her, and Tina decided to move out of the sun, back from the water, to the shade of the palm trees. In this part of the beach, the palm trees overhung a gnarled tangle of mangrove roots. which blocked any attempt to penetrate inland. Tina sat in the sand and kicked the dried mangrove leaves. She noticed many bird tracks in the sand. Costa Rica was famous for its birds. The guidebook said there were 3 times as many birds in Costa Rica as in all of America and Canada. In the sand, some of the 3-toed birds' tracks were small and so faint they could hardly be seen. Other tracks were large and cut deeper in the sand. Tina was looking idly at the tracks when she heard a chirping, followed by a rustling in the mangrove thicket. Did sloths make chirping sound? Tina didn't think so, but she wasn't sure. The chirping was probably some ocean bird. She waited quietly, not moving, hearing the rustling again, and finally, she saw the source of the sounds. A few yards away, a lizard emerged from the mangrove roots and peered at her. Tina held her breath. A new animal for her list. The lizard stood up on its hind legs, balancing on its thick tail, and stared at her. Standing like that, it was almost a foot tall, dark green with brown stripes along its back. Its tiny front legs ended in little lizard fingers that wiggled in the air. The lizard cocked its head as it looked at her. Tina thought it was cute, sort of like a big salamander. She raised her hand and wiggled her fingers back. The lizard wasn't frightened. It came toward her, walking upright on its hind legs. It was hardly bigger than a chicken. And like a chicken, it bobbed its head and as it walked. Tina thought it would make a wonderful pet. She noticed that the lizard left 3-toed tracks that looked exactly like bird tracks. The lizard came closer to Tina. She kept her body still, not wanting to frighten the little animal. She was amazed that it would come so close, but she remembered that this was a national park. All the animals in the park would know that they were protected. This lizard was probably tame. Maybe it even expected her to give it some food. Unfortunately, she didn't have any. Slowly, Tina extended her palm to show she didn't have any food. The lizard paused, cocked its head, and chirped. "Sorry," Tina said. "I just don't have anything." And then, without warning, the lizard jumped up onto her outstretched hand. Tina could feel its little toes pinching the skin of her palm, and she felt the surprising weight of the animal's body pressing her arm down. And then the lizard scrambled up her arm toward her face. Foreshadowing. "I just wish I could see her," Ellen Bowman said, squinting in the sunlight. "That's all. Just see her." "I'm sure she's fine," Mike said, picking through the box lunch packed by the hotel. There was unappetizing grilled chicken and some kind of meat-filled pastry. Not that Ellen would eat any of it. "You don't think she'd leave the beach," Ellen said. "No, hun, I don't." "I feel so isolated here," Ellen said. "I thought that's what you wanted," Mike Bowman said. "I did." "Well then, what's the problem?" "I just wish I could see her is all," Ellen said. Then, from down the beach, carried by the wind, they heard their daughter's voice. She was screaming. They definitely picked that scene apart for the second movie. Purorenas. What's a purorena? Punt. Puta. I said puta. Puntarenas. Puta. Okay. Funny words. Funny words. I think she's quite comfortable now, Dr. Cruz said, lowering the plastic flap of the oxygen tent around Tina as she slept. Mike Bowman sat beside the bed, close to his daughter. Mike thought Dr. Cruz was probably pretty capable. He spoke excellent English, the result of training at medical centers in London and Baltimore. Dr. Cruz radiated competence, and the Clinica Centenaria, the modern hospital in Punta Arenas, was spotless and efficient. But even so, Mike Bowman felt nervous. There was no getting around the fact that his only daughter was desperately ill, and they were far away from home. When Mike had first reached Tina, she was screaming hysterically. Her whole left arm was bloody, covered with a profusion of small bites, each the size of a thumbprint, and there were flecks of sticky foam on her arm, like a foamy saliva. He carried her back down the beach. Almost immediately, her arm began to redden and swell. Mike would not soon forget the frantic drive back to civilization. The four-wheel drive Land Rover slipping and sliding up the muddy track into the hills, while his daughter screamed in fear and pain, and her arm grew more bloated and red. Long before they reached the park boundaries, the swelling had spread to her neck, and then Tina began to have trouble breathing. "She'll be all right now," Ellen said, staring through the plastic oxygen tent. "I believe so," Dr. Cruz said. "I've given her another dose of steroids, and her breathing is much easier. And you can see the edema in her arm is greatly reduced." Mike Bowman said, "About those bites. We have no identification yet," the doctor said. "I myself haven't seen bites like that before, but you'll notice they are disappearing. It's already quite difficult to make them out. Fortunately, I have taken photographs for reference, and I have washed her arm to collect some samples of the sticky saliva. One for analysis here, a second to send to the labs in San Jose, and the third we will keep frozen in case it is needed." "Do you have the pictures she made?" "Yes," Mike Bowman said. He handed the doctor the sketch that Tina had drawn, in response to questions from the admitting officials. "This is the animal that bit her," Dr. Cruz said, looking at the picture. "Yes," Mike Bowman said. "She said it was a green lizard, the size of a chicken or a crow." "I don't know of such a lizard," the doctor said. "She has drawn it standing on its hind legs." "That's right," Mike Bowman said. "She said it walked on its hind legs." Dr. Cruz frowned. He stared at the picture a while longer. "I'm not an expert. I've asked for Dr. Gutierrez to visit us here. He's a senior researcher at the Reserve Biologica de Carrara, which is across the bay." "Perhaps he can identify the animal for us." "Isn't there someone from Cabo Blanco?" Bowman asked. "That's where she was bitten." Unfortunately not, Dr. Cruz said. Cabo Blanco has no permanent staff, and no researcher has worked there for some time. You were probably the first people to walk on that beach in several months. But I'm sure you will find Dr. Gutierrez to be knowledgeable. Dr. Gutierrez turned out to be a bearded man wearing khaki shorts and shirt. The surprise was that he was American. He was introduced to the Bowmans, saying in a soft southern accent, "Mr. and Mrs. Bowman, how you doing? Nice to meet you." And then explaining that he was a field biologist from Yale who had worked in Costa Rica for the last 5 years. Marty Gutierrez examined Tina thoroughly, lifting her arm gently, peering closely at each of the bites with a penlight, then measuring them with a small pocket ruler. After a while, Gutierrez stepped away, nodding to himself, as if he had understood something. He then inspected the Polaroids and asked several questions about the saliva, which Cruz told him was still being tested in the lab. Finally, he turned to Mike Bowman and his wife, waiting tensely. "I think Tina's going to be fine. I just want to be clear about a few details." He said, making notes in the precise hand. "Your daughter says she was bitten by a green lizard, approximately 1 foot high, which walked upright onto the beach from the mangrove swamp." "That's right, yes." "And the lizard made some kind of a vocalization." Tina said it chirped or squeaked. "Like a mouse, would you say?" "Yes." "Well then," Dr. Gutierrez said, "I know this lizard." He explained that, of the 6,000 species of lizards in the world, no more than a dozen species walked upright. Of those species, only 4 were found in Latin America, and judging by the coloration, the lizard could be only one of the 4. I am sure this lizard was the Basiliscus amoratus, a striped basilisk lizard found here in Costa Rica and also in Honduras. Standing on their hind legs, they are sometimes as tall as a foot. "Are they poisonous?" "No, Mrs. Bowman, not at all." Gutierrez explained that the swelling in Tina's arm was an allergic reaction. According to the literature, 14% of people are strongly allergic to reptiles, he said, and your daughter seems to be one of them. "She was screaming. She said it was so painful." "Probably it was," Gutierrez said. "Reptile saliva contains serotonin, which causes tremendous pain." He turned to Cruz. "Her blood pressure came down with antihistamines." "Yes," Cruz said promptly. "Serotonin," Gutierrez said, "no question." Still, Ellen Bowman remained uneasy. But why would a lizard bite her in the first place? "Lizard bites are very common," Gutierrez said. "Animal handlers in zoos get bitten all the time. And just the other day, I heard that a lizard had bitten an infant in her crib in Amaloya, about 60 miles from where you were. So bites do occur. I'm not sure why your daughter had so many bites. What was she doing at the time?" "Nothing. She said she was sitting pretty still, because she didn't want to frighten it away." "Sitting pretty still," Gutierrez said, frowning. He shook his head. "Well, I don't think we can say exactly what happened. Wild animals are unpredictable. And what about the foamy saliva on her arm? Ellen said. I keep thinking about rabies. No, Dr. Gutierrez said. A reptile can't carry rabies. Your daughter has suffered an allergic reaction to the bite of a basilisk lizard. Nothing more serious. Mike Bowman then showed Gutierrez the picture that Tina had drawn. Gutierrez nodded. I would accept this as a picture of a basilisk lizard, he said. A few details are wrong, of course. The neck is much too long, and she's drawn the hind legs with only 3 toes instead of 5. The tail is too thick and raised too high. But otherwise, this is a perfectly serviceable lizard of the kind we're talking about. But Tina specifically said the leg was long, Ellen Bowman insisted, and she said there were 3 toes on the foot. Tina's pretty observant, Mike Bowman said. I'm sure she is, Gutierrez said, smiling. But I still think your daughter was bitten by a common basilisk at Amaratus and had a severe herpetological reaction. Normal time, of course, with medication is 12 hours. She should be just fine in the morning. In the modern laboratory in the basement of the Clinica Santa Maria, word was received that Dr. Gutierrez had identified the animal that had bitten the American child as a harmless basilisk lizard. Immediately, the analysis of the saliva was halted. Even though a preliminary fractionation showed several extremely high molecular weight proteins of unknown biological activity. But the night technician was busy, and he placed the saliva samples on the holding shelf of the refrigerator. The next morning, the day clerk checked the holding shelf against the names of discharged patients. Seeing that Bowman Christina L. was scheduled for discharge that morning, the clerk threw out the saliva samples. At the last moment, he noticed that one sample had the red tag, which meant that it was to be forwarded to the university lab in San Jose. He retrieved the test tube from the wastebasket and sent it on its way. Go on. Say thank you to Dr. Cruz, Ellen Bowman said, and pushed Tina forward. Thank you, Dr. Cruz, Tina said. I feel much better now. She reached up and shook the doctor's hand. Then she said, You have a different shirt. For a moment, Dr. Cruz looked perplexed. Then he smiled. That's right, Tina. When I work all night at the hospital, in the morning I changed my shirt. But not your tie. No, just my shirt. Ellen Bowman said, Mike told you she's observant. She certainly is. Dr. Cruz smiled and shook the little girl's hand gravely. Enjoy the rest of your holiday in Costa Rica, Tina. The Bowman family had started to leave when Dr. Cruz said, Oh, Tina, do you remember the lizard that bit you? Uh-huh. Do you remember its feet? Uh-huh. Did it have any toes? Yes. How many toes did it have? 3, she said. How do you know that? Because I looked, she said. Anyway, all the birds on the beach made marks in the sand with 3 toes, like this. She held up her hand, middle 3 fingers spread wide. And the lizard made those kinds of marks in the sand too. The lizard made marks like a bird. Uh-huh, Tina said. It walked like a bird too. He jerked his head up like this, up and down. She took a few steps, bobbing her head. After the Bowmans had departed, Dr. Cruz decided to report the conversation to Gutierrez at the biological station. I must admit the girl's story is puzzling, Gutierrez said. I've been doing some checking myself. I am no longer certain she was bitten by a basilisk. Not certain at all. Then what could it be? Well, Gutierrez said, let's not speculate prematurely. By the way, have you heard of any other lizard bites at the hospital? No. Why? Let me know, my friend, if you do. It's the end of another chapter. Just take a little stretch. Yes. Cracked my back. So nice. I feel like it got a little warmer in here. I should get myself a fan for the room. Scooch back, make sure I don't accidentally run over my cat. It's always interesting going from having seen a movie to reading the book and catch all the little details that are used in other movies or pieces that are entirely glossed over. Adeline, hello. Welcome back. How are you? Just taking a little stretch break before we start the next chapter. Upsetty? Oh no. I hope you feel better later. Make the upsetty go away. Doing okay, I guess. You know. Little low on funds, but who isn't these days? Who isn't these days? I started working on some more ASMR scripts, and I've started working on lyrics for a parody song to Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. And I'm also working on a Patreon for NSFW scripts. llamas, thank you for the head pats. Thank you, thank you. How are you? How's it going, llama? Okay. It's time for the next chapter. We're 22 pages in to Jurassic Park. Ooh, I'm suddenly getting a little breeze. I need a bigger breeze. Marty Gutierrez sat on the beach and watched the afternoon sun fall lower in the sky until it sparkled harshly on the water of the bay, and its rays reached beneath the palm trees to where he sat among the mangroves on the beach of Cabo Blanco. As best he could determine, he was sitting near the spot where the American girl had been 2 days before. Although it was true enough, he had told the Bowmans that lizard bites were common. Gutierrez had never heard of a basilisk lizard biting anyone, and he had certainly never heard of anyone being hospitalized for a lizard bite. Then, too, the bite radius on Tina's arm appeared slightly too large for a basilisk. When he got back to the Carrara station, he had checked the small research library there, but found no reference to basilisk lizard bites. Next, he checked International Biosciences Services, a computer database in America, but he found no references to basilisk bites or hospitalization for lizard bites. He then called the medical officer in Amaloya, who confirmed that a 9-day-old infant sleeping in its crib had been bitten on the foot by an animal the grandmother, the only person actually to see it, claimed was a lizard. Subsequently, the foot had become swollen and the infant had nearly died. The grandmother described the lizard as green with brown stripes. It had bitten the child several times before the woman frightened it away. Strange, Gutierrez had. No, like all the others, the medical officer replied, adding that he had heard of other biting incidents. A child in Vasquez, the next village up the coast, had been bitten while sleeping, and another in Puerto Sotrero. All these incidents had occurred in the last 2 months. All had involved sleeping children and infants. In such a new and distinctive pattern led Gutierrez to suspect the presence of a previously unknown species of lizard. This was particularly likely to happen in Costa Rica. Only 75 miles wide, at its narrowest point, the country was smaller than the state of Maine. Yet, within its limited space, Costa Rica had a remarkable diversity of biological habitats. Seacoast on both the Atlantic and the Pacific, 4 separate mountain ranges, including 12,000-foot peaks and active volcanoes, rainforests, cloud forests, temperate zones, swampy marshes, and arid deserts. Such ecological diversity sustained An astonishing diversity of plant and animal life. Costa Rica had 3 times as many species of birds as all of North America, more than 1,000 species of orchids, more than 5,000 species of insects. New species were being discovered all the time at a pace that had increased in recent years, for a sad reason. Costa Rica was becoming deforested, and as jungle species lost their habitats, they moved to other areas, and sometimes changed behavior as well. So a new species was perfectly possible. But along with the excitement of a new species was the worrisome possibility of new diseases. Lizards carried viral diseases, including several that could be transmitted to man. The most serious was central saurian encephalitis, or CSE, which caused a form of sleeping sickness in human beings and horses. Gutierrez felt it was important to find this new lizard, if only to test it for disease. Sitting on the beach, he watched the sun drop lower and sighed. Perhaps Tina Bowman had seen a new animal, and perhaps not. Certainly Gutierrez had not. Earlier that morning, he had taken the air pistol, loaded the clip with ligamine darts, and set out for the beach with high hopes. But the day was wasted. He would soon have to begin to drive back up the hill. He did not want to drive that road in darkness. Gutierrez got to his feet and started back up the beach. Farther along, he saw the dark shape of a howler monkey ambling along the edge of the mangrove swamp. Gutierrez moved away, stepping out toward the water. If there was one howler, there would probably be others in the trees overhead. And howlers tended to urinate on intruders. Is that true? Is that true? Do howler monkeys pee on... But this particular howler monkey seemed to be alone and walking slowly and pausing frequently to sit on its haunches. The monkeys had something in its mouth. As Gutierrez came closer, he saw it was eating a lizard. The tail and the hind legs drooped from the monkey's jaw. Even from a distance, Gutierrez could see the brown stripes against the green. Gutierrez dropped to the ground and aimed the pistol. The howler monkey, accustomed to living in a protected reserve, stared curiously. He did not run away, even when the first dart whined aimlessly past him. When the second dart struck, deep in the thigh, the howler shrieked in anger and surprise, dropping the remains of its meal as it fled into the jungle. Gutierrez got to his feet and walked forward. He wasn't worried about the monkey. The tranquilizer dose was too small to give it anything but a few minutes of dizziness. Already, he was thinking of what to do with his new find. Gutierrez himself would write the preliminary report, but the remains would have to be sent back to the United States for final positive identification. To whom should he send it? The acknowledged expert was Edward H. Simpson, emeritus professor of zoology at Columbia University in New York. An elegant older man with swept-back white hair, Simpson was probably the world's leading authority on lizard taxonomy. Probably, Marty thought. he would send his lizard to Dr. Simpson. Dr. Richard Stone, head of the Tropical Diseases Laboratory of Columbia University Medical Center, often remarked that the name conjured up a grander place than it actually was. In the early 20th century, when the laboratory occupied the entire fourth floor of the Biomedical Research Building, crews of technicians worked to eliminate the scourges of yellow fever, malaria, and cholera. But medical success and research laboratories in Nairobi and Sao Paulo had left the TDL a much less important place than it once was. Now a fraction of its former size, it employed only 2 full-time technicians, and they were primarily concerned with diagnosing illnesses of New Yorkers who had traveled abroad. The lab's comfortable routine was unprepared for what it received that morning. "Oh, very nice," the technician in the Tropical Diseases Laboratory said as she read the customs label. Partially masticated fragment of unidentified Costa Rican lizard. She wrinkled her nose. "This one's all yours, Dr. Stone." Richard Stone crossed the lab to inspect the new arrival. "Is this the material from Ed Simpson's lab?" "Yes," she said. "But I don't know why they'd send a lizard to us." "His secretary called," Stone said. "Simpson's on a field trip in Borneo for the summer, and because there's a question of communicable disease with this lizard, she asked our lab to take a look at it. Let's see what we've got." The white plastic cylinder was the size of a half-gallon milk container. It had locking metal latches and a screw top. It was labeled International Biological Specimen Container and plastered with stickers and warnings in 4 languages. The warnings were intended to keep the cylinder from being opened by suspicious customs officials. Apparently, the warnings had worked. As Richard Stone swung the big light over, he could see the seals were still intact. Stone turned on the air handlers and pulled on plastic gloves and a face mask. After all, the lab had recently identified specimens contaminated with Venezuelan equine fever, Japanese bee encephalitis, Casanor forest virus, Langet virus, and Mayaro. Then he unscrewed the top. There was a hiss of escaping gas, and white smoke boiled out. The cylinder turned frosty cold. Inside, he found a plastic Ziploc and sandwich bag containing something green. Stone spread a surgical drape on the table and shook out the contents of the bag. A piece of frozen flesh struck the table with a dull thud. "Huh," the technician said. "Looks eaten." "Yes, it does," Stone said. "What do they want with us?" The technician consulted the enclosed documents. "Lizard is biting local children. They have a question about identification of the species and a concern about disease transmitted from the bite." She produced a child's picture of a lizard, signed Tina at the top. One of the kids drew a picture of the lizard. Stone glanced at the picture. "Obviously, we can't verify the species," Stone said, "but we can check diseases easily enough, if we can get any blood out of this fragment." What are they calling this animal? Basiliscus amberatus with three-toed genetic anomaly, she said, reading. Okay, Dr. Stone said. Let's get started. While you're waiting for it to thaw, do an x-ray and take Polaroids for the record. Once we have blood, start running antibody sets until we get some matches. Let me know if there's a problem. Before lunchtime, the lab has an answer. The lizard blood showed no significant reactivity to any viral or bacterial antigen. They had run toxicity profiles as well, and they had found only one positive match. The blood was mildly reactive to the venom of the Indian king cobra. But such cross-reactivity was common among reptile species, and Dr. Stone did not think it noteworthy to include in the facts his technician sent to Dr. Martin Gutierrez that same evening. There was never any question about identifying the lizard. That would await the return of Dr. Simpson. He was not due back for several weeks, and his secretary asked if the TDL would please store the lizard fragment in the meantime. Dr. Stone put it back in the Ziploc bag and stuck it in the freezer. Martin Gutierrez read the facts from the Columbia Medical Center Tropical Diseases Laboratory. It was brief. Subject: Basiliscus amberatus with genetic anomaly, forwarded from Dr. Simpson's office. Materials: posterior segment, partially eaten animal. Procedures performed: X-ray, microscopic, immunological RTX for viral, parasitic, bacterial disease. Findings: no histologic or immunologic evidence for any communicable disease in man in this Basiliscus amberatus sample. Signed, Richard A. Stone, MD Director. Gutierrez made two assumptions based on the memo. First, that his identification of the lizard as a basilisk had been confirmed by scientists at Columbia University. And second, that the absence of communicable disease meant the recent episodes of sporadic lizard bites implied no serious health hazards for Costa Rica. On the contrary, he felt his original views were correct, that a lizard species had been driven from the forest into new habitat and was coming into contact with village people. Gutierrez was certain that in a few more weeks the lizards would settle down and the biting episodes would end. The tropical rain fell in great drenching sheets, hammering the corrugated roof of the clinic Bahia Anasco. It was nearly midnight. Power had been lost in the storm, and the midwife, Elena Morales, was working by flashlight when she heard a squeaking, chirping sound. Thinking that it was a rat, she quickly put a compress on the forehead of the mother and went to the next room to check on the newborn baby. As her hand touched the doorknob, she heard the chirping again, and she relaxed. Evidently, it was just a bird, flying in the window to get out of the rain. Costa Ricans said that when a bird came to visit a newborn, it brought good luck. Elena opened the door. The infant lay in a wicker bassinet, swaddled in a light blanket. Only its face exposed. Around the rim of the bassinet, 3 dark green lizards crouched like gargoyles. When they saw Elena, they cocked their heads and stared curiously at her, but did not flee. In the light of her flashlight, Elena saw the blood dripping from their snouts. Softly chirping, one lizard bent down, and with a quick shake of its head, tore a ragged chunk of flesh from the baby. Elena rushed forward, screaming, and the lizard fled into the darkness. But long before she reached the bassinet, she could see what had happened to the infant's face. And she knew the child must be dead. The lizard scattered into the rainy night, chirping and squealing, leaving behind only bloody three-toed tracks, like birds. Poor baby. The shape of the data. Later, when she was calmer, Elena Morales decided not to report the lizard attack. Despite the horror she had seen, she began to worry that she might be criticized for leaving the baby unguarded. So she told the mother that the baby had asphyxiated, and she reported the death on the forms she sent to San Jose as SIDS, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. This was a syndrome of unexplained death among very young children. It was unremarkable, and her report went unchallenged. Wow, Elena. The university lab in San Jose that analyzed the saliva sample from Tina Bowman's arm made several remarkable discoveries. There was, as expected, a great deal of serotonin, but among the salivary proteins was a real monster. Molecular mass of 1.98 million. One of the largest proteins known. Biological activity was still under study, but it seemed to be a neurotoxic poison related to cobra venom, although more primitive in structure. The lab also detected trace quantities of the gamma amino methionine hydrolase. Because this enzyme was a marker for genetic engineering and not found in wild animals, technicians assumed it was a lab contaminant and did not report it when they called Dr. Cruz, the referring physician in Punta Arenas. The lizard fragment rested in the freezer at Columbia University, awaiting the return of Dr. Simpson, who was not expected for at least a month, and so things might have remained had not a technician named Alice Livin walk into the tropical disease laboratory, seen Tina Bowman's picture, and said, "Oh, what kid drew the dinosaur?" "What?" Richard Stone said, turning slower towards her. "The dinosaur. Isn't that what it is? My kids draw them all the time." "This is a lizard," Stone said, "from Costa Rica. Some girl down there drew a picture of it." "No," Alice Levin said, shaking her head. "Look at it. It's very clear. Big head, long neck, stands on its hind legs, thick tail. It's a dinosaur." "It can't be. It was only a foot tall." "So? There were little dinosaurs back then," Alice said. "Believe me, I know. I have 2 boys. I'm an expert. The smallest dinosaurs were under a foot. Teenosaurus or something. I don't know. Those names are impossible. You'll never learn those names if you're over the age of 10. "You don't understand," Richard Stone said. This is a picture of a contemporary animal. They sent us a fragment of the animal. It's in the freezer now. Stone went and got it and shook it out of the baggie. Alice Levin looked at the frozen piece of leg and tail and shrugged. She didn't touch it. I don't know, she said, but that looks like a dinosaur to me. Stone shook his head. Impossible. Why? Alice Levin said. It could be a leftover or a remnant or whatever they call them. Stone continued to shake his head. Alice was uninformed. She was just a technician who worked in the bacteriology lab down the hall, and she had an active imagination. Stone remembered the time when she thought she was being followed by one of the surgical orderlies. She might have been. You know, Alice Levin said, if this is a dinosaur, Richard, it could be a big deal. It's not a dinosaur. Has anybody checked it? No, Stone said. Well, take it to the Museum of Natural History or something, Alice Levin said. You really should. I'd be embarrassed. You want me to do it for you? She said. No, Richard Stone said. I don't. You're not going to do anything. Nothing at all. He put the baggie back in the freezer and slammed the door. It's not a dinosaur. It's a lizard. And whatever it is, it can wait until Dr. Simpson gets back from Borneo to identify it. That's final, Alice. This lizard is not going anywhere. Yeah, we're getting so far into the book. We're not even at the main part of the story yet. Reading is very thirsty work, though. Oh, big stretch. Alright, next chapter. How many pages is this one? Quite a few pages, actually. Oh. Okay. The shore of the inland sea. Ooh. Alan Grant crouched down, his nose inches from the ground. The temperature was over 100 degrees. His knees ached, despite the rug layers pad he wore. His lungs burned from the harsh alkaline dust. Sweat dripped off his forehead onto the ground. But Grant was oblivious to the discomfort. His entire attention was focused on the 6-inch square of earth in front of him. Working patiently with a dental pick and an artist's camel brush, he exposed the tiny L-shaped fragment of jawbone. It was only an inch long, and no thicker than his little finger. The teeth were a row of small points, and had the characteristic medial angling. Bits of bone flaked away as he dug. Grant paused for a moment to paint the bone with rubber cement before continuing to expose it. There was no question that this was the jawbone from an infant carnivorous dinosaur. Its owner had died 79 million years ago, at the age of about 2 months. With any luck, Grant might find the rest of the skeleton as well. If so, it would be the first complete skeleton of a baby carnivore. Hey, Alan. Grant looked up, blinking at the sunlight. He pulled down his sunglasses and wiped his forehead with the back of his arm. He was crouched on an eroded hillside in the Badlands outside Snakewater, Montana. Beneath the great blue bowl of sky, blunted hills, exposed outcroppings of crumbling limestone, snatched for miles, stretched for miles in every direction. There was not a tree or a bush, nothing but barren rock, hot sun, and whining wind. Visitors found the Badlands depressingly bleak, but when Grant looked at the landscape, he saw something else entirely. This barren land was what remained of another, very different world, which had vanished 80 million years ago. In his mind's eye, Grant saw himself back in the warm, swampy bayou that formed the shoreline of a great inland sea. This inland sea was 1,000 miles wide, extending all the way from the newly upthrust Rocky Mountains to the sharp, craggy peaks of the Appalachians. All of the American West was underwater. At that time, there were thin clouds in the sky overhead, darkened by the smoke of nearby volcanoes. The atmosphere was denser, richer in carbon dioxide. Plants grew rapidly along the shoreline. There were no fish in these waters, but there were clams and snails. Pterosaurs swooped down to scoop algae from the surface. A few carnivorous dinosaurs prowled the swampy shores of the lake, moving among the palm trees. And offshore was a small island, about 2 acres in size, ringed with dense vegetation. This island formed a protected sanctuary where herds of herbivorous duck-billed dinosaurs laid their eggs in communal nests and raised their squeaking young. Over the millions of years that followed, the pale green alkaline lake grew shallower and finally vanished. The exposed land buckled and cracked under the heat. And the offshore island with its dinosaur eggs became the eroded hillside in northern Montana, which Alan Grant was now excavating. Hey, Alan. He stood, a barrel-chested, bearded man of 40. He heard the chugging of a portable generator and the distant clatter of the jackhammer cutting into the dense rock on the next hill. He saw the kids working around the jackhammer, moving away the big pieces of rock after checking them for fossils. At the foot of the hill, he saw the 6 teepees of his camp, the flapping mess tent, and the trailer that served as their field laboratory. And he saw Ellie waving to him from the shadows of the field laboratory. "Visitor," she called, and pointed to the east. Grant saw the cloud of dust and the blue Ford stand bouncing over the rutted road toward them. He glanced at his watch. Right on time. On the other hill, the kids looked up with interest. They didn't get many visitors in Snakewater, and there had been a lot of speculation about what a lawyer from the Environmental Protection Agency would want to see Alan Grant about. But Grant knew that paleontology, the study of extinct life, had in recent years taken on an unexpected relevance to the modern world. The modern world was changing fast, and urgent questions about the weather, deforestation, global warming, or the ozone layer often seemed answerable, at least in part, with information from the past, information that paleontologists could provide. He had been called as an expert witness twice in the past few years. Grant started down the hill to meet the car. Sorry, I had to cough suddenly. The visitor coughed in the white dust as he slammed the car door. "Bob Morris, EPA," he said, extending his hand. "I'm with the San Francisco office." Grant introduced himself and said, "You look hot. Want a beer?" Jesus, yeah. Morris was in his late 20s, wearing a tie and pants from a business suit. He carried a briefcase. His wingtip shoes crunched on the rocks as they walked toward the trailer. "When I first came over the hill, I thought this was an Indian reservation," Morris said, pointing to the teepees. "No," Grant said. "Just the best way to live out here." Grant explained that in 1978, the first year of the excavations, they had come out in North Slope octahedral tents, the most advanced available, but the tents always blew over in the wind. They tried other kinds of tents with the same results. Finally, they started putting up teepees, which were larger inside, more comfortable, and more stable in the wind. "These are Blackfoot teepees, built around 4 poles," Grant said. "Sioux teepees built around 3. But this used to be Blackfoot territory, so we thought." "Uh-huh," Morris said. "Very fitting." He squinted at the desolate landscape and shook his head. "How long you been out here?" "About 60 cases," Grant said. When Morris looked surprised, he explained, "We measure time in beer. We started in June with 100 cases. We've gone through about 60 so far." 63 to be exact, Ellie Sattler said, as they reached the trailer. Grant was amused to see Morris gaping at her. Ellie was wearing cut-off jeans and a work shirt tied at her midriff. She was 24 and darkly tanned. Her blonde hair was pulled back. "Ellie keeps us going," Grant said, introducing her. "She's very good at what she does." "What does she do?" Morris asked. "Paleobotany," Ellie said. "And I also do the standard field preps." She opened the door and they went inside. The air conditioning in the trailer only brought the temperature down to 85 degrees, but it seemed cool after the midday heat. The trailer had a series of long wooden tables with tiny bone specimens neatly laid out, tagged, and labeled. Farther along were ceramic dishes and crocks. There was a strong odor of vinegar. Morris glanced at the bones. "I thought dinosaurs were big," he said. "They were," Ellie said. "But everything you see here comes from babies. Snake water is important primarily because of the number of dinosaur nesting sites here. Until we started this work, there were hardly any infant dinosaurs known. Only one nest had ever been found, in the Gobi Desert. We've discovered a dozen different hadrosaur nests, complete with eggs and bones of infants." While Grant went to the refrigerator, she showed Morris the acetic acid baths, which were used to dissolve away the limestone from the delicate bones. "They look like chicken bones," Morris said, peering into the ceramic dishes. "Yes," she said. They're very bird-like. And what about those? Morris said, pointing through the trailer window to piles of large bones outside, wrapped in heavy plastics. Rejects, Ellie said. Bones too fragmentary when we took them out of the ground. In the old days, we just discard them. But nowadays, we send them for genetic testing. Genetic testing, Morris said. Here you go, Grant said, thrusting a beer into his hand. He gave another to Ellie. She chugged hers, throwing her long neck back. Morris stared. We're pretty informal here, Grant said. Want to step into my office? Sure, Morris said. Grant led him to the end of the trailer, where there was a torn couch, a sagging chair, and a battered end table. Grant dropped onto the couch, which creaked and exhaled a cloud of chalky dust. He leaned back, thumped his boots up on the end table, and gestured for Morris to sit in the chair. Make yourself comfortable. Grant was a professor of paleontology at the University of Denver, and one of the foremost researchers in his field, but he had never been comfortable with social niceties. He saw himself as an outdoor man, and he knew that all the important work in paleontology was done outdoors, with your hands. Grant had little patience for academics, for the museum curators, for what he called teacup dinosaur hunters, and he took some pains to distance himself in dress and behavior from the teacup dinosaur hunters, even delivering his lectures in jeans and sneakers. Grant watched as Morris primly brushed off the seat of the chair before he sat down. Morris opened his briefcase, rummaged through his papers, and glanced back at Ellie, who was lifting bones with tweezers from the acid bath at the other end of the trailer, paying no attention to them. You're probably wondering why I'm here. Grant nodded. It's a long way to come, Mr. Morris. Well, Morris said, to get right to the point, the EPA is concerned about the activities of the Hammond Foundation. You received some fundings from them. $30,000 a year, Grant said, nodding, for the last 5 years. What do you know about the foundation? Morris said. Grant shrugged. The Hammond Foundation is a respected source of academic grants. They fund research all over the world, including several dinosaur researchers. I know they support Bob Carey out of the Tyrrell in Alberta and John Weller in Alaska, probably more. Do you know why the Hammond Foundation supports so much dinosaur research? Morris asks. Of course. It's because John Hammond is a dinosaur nut. You've met Hammond. Once or twice. Grant shrugged. He comes here for brief visits. He's quite elderly, you know, and eccentric, the way rich people sometimes are, but always very enthusiastic. Why? Well, Morris said, the Hammond Foundation is actually a rather mysterious organization. He pulled out a Xeroxed world map marked with red dots and passed it to Grant. These are the digs the Foundation financed last year. Notice anything odd about them? Montana, Alaska, Canada, Sweden. They're all sites in the north. There's nothing below the 45th parallel. Morris pulled out more maps. It's the same year after year. Dinosaur projects to the south, in Utah or Colorado or Mexico, never get funded. The Hammond Foundation only supports cold weather digs. We'd like to know why. Grant shuffled through the maps quickly. If it was true that the Foundation only supported cold weather digs, then it was strange behavior, because some of the best dinosaur researchers were working in hot climates. And there are other puzzles, Morris said. For example, what is the relationship of dinosaurs to amber? Amber? Yes, it's the hard yellow resin of dried tree sap. I know what it is, Grant said, but why are you asking? Because, Morris said, over the last 5 years, Hammond has purchased enormous quantities of amber in America, Europe, and Asia, including many pieces of museum-quality jewelry. The Foundation has spent $17 million on amber. They now possess the largest privately held stock of this material in the world. I don't get it, Grant said. Neither does anybody else, Morris said. As far as we can tell, it doesn't make any sense at all. Amber is easily synthesized. It has no commercial or defense value. There's no reason to stockpile it. But Hammond has done just that over many years. Amber, Grant said, shaking his head. And what about his island in Costa Rica? Morris continued. 10 years ago, the Hammond Foundation leased an island from the government of Costa Rica, supposedly to set up a biological preserve. I don't know anything about that, Grant said, frowning. I haven't been able to find out much, Morris said. The island is 100 miles off the west coast. It's very rugged, and it's in an area of ocean where the combinations of wind and current make it almost perpetually covered in fog. They used to call it Cloud Island, Isla Nublar. Apparently, the Costa Ricans were amazed that anybody would want it. Morris searched in his briefcase. The reason I mention it, he said, is that according to the records, you were paid a consultant's fee in connection with this island. I was? Grant said. Morris passed a sheet of paper to Grant. It was the Xerox of a check issued March 1984 from InGen Inc., Farallon Road, Palo Alto, California, made out to Alan Grant in the amount of $12,000. At the lower corner, the check was marked Consultant Services, Costa Rica, Juvenile Hyperspace. Oh, sure, Grant said. I remember that. It was weird as hell, but I remember it. And it didn't have anything to do with an island. Alan Grant had found the first clutch of dinosaur eggs in Montana in 1979, and many more in the next 2 years, but he hadn't gotten around to publishing his findings until 1983. His paper, with its report of a herd of 10,000 duck-billed dinosaurs living along the shore of a vast inland sea, building communal nests of eggs in the mud, raising their infant dinosaurs in the herd, made Grant a celebrity overnight. The notion of maternal instincts in giant dinosaurs, and the drawing of cute babies poking their snouts out of the eggs had appeal around the world. Grant was besieged with requests for interviews, lectures, books. Characteristically, he turned them all down, wanting only to continue his excavations. But it was during those frantic days of the mid-1980s that he was approached by the InGen Corporation with a request for consulting services. Had you heard of InGen before? Morris asked. No. How did they contact you? Telephone call. It was a man named Gennaro, or Janino, something like that. Morris nodded. Donald Gennaro, he said. He's the legal counsel for InGen. Anyway, he wanted to know about eating habits of dinosaurs, and he offered me a fee to draw up a paper for him. Grant drank his beer, set the can on the floor. Gennaro was particularly interested in young dinosaurs, infants and juveniles, what they ate. I guess he thought I would know about that. Did you? Not really, no. I told him that we had found lots of skeletal material, but we had very little dietary data. But Gennaro said he knew we hadn't published everything, and he wanted whatever we had, and he offered a very large fee, $50,000. Morris took out a tape recorder and set it on the end table. You mind? No, go ahead. So, Gennaro telephoned you in 1984. What happened then? Well, Grant said, you see our operation here. 50,000 would support 2 full summers of digging. I told him I'd do what I could. So you agreed to prepare a paper for him? Yes. On the dietary habits of juvenile dinosaurs? Yes. You met Gennaro? No, just on the phone. Did Gennaro say why he wanted this information? Yes, Grant said. He was planning a museum for children, and he wanted to feature baby dinosaurs. He said he was hiring a number of academic consultants, and named them. There were paleontologists like me, and a mathematician from Texas named Ian Malcolm, and a couple of ecologists, a systems analyst. Good group. Morris nodded, making notes. So you accepted the consultancy? Yes, I agreed to send him a summary of our work, what we knew about the habits of the duck-billed hadrosaurs we'd found. What kind of information did you send? Morris asked. Everything. Nesting behavior, territorial ranges, feeding behavior, social behavior, everything. And how did Gennaro respond? He kept calling and calling, sometimes in the middle of the night. Would the dinosaurs eat this? Would they eat that? Should the exhibit include this? I could never understand why he was so worked up. I think dinosaurs are important too, but not that important. They've been dead 65 million years. You'd think this calls could wait until morning. I see. And the $15,000. 50. Grant shook his head. I got tired of Gennaro and called the whole thing off. We settled up for 12,000. That must have been about the middle of 85. Morris made a note. And InGen? Any other contact with them? Not since 1985. And when did the Hammond Foundation begin to fund your research? Thought I saw something. I'd have to look, Grant said. But it was around then, mid-80s. And you know Hammond as just a rich dinosaur enthusiast? Yes. Morris made another note. Look, Grant said. If the EPA is so concerned about John Hammond and what he's doing, the dinosaur sites in the north, the amber purchases, the island in Costa Rica, why don't you just ask him about it? At the moment we can't, Morris said. Why not? Grant said. Because we don't have any evidence of wrongdoing, Morris said. But personally, I think it's clear John Hammond is evading the law. What law? I was first contacted, Morris explained. by the Office of Technology Transfer. The OTT monitors shipments of American technology which might have military significance. They called to say InGen had two areas of possible illegal technology transfer. First, InGen shipped 3 Cray XMPs to Costa Rica. InGen characterized it as a transfer within corporate divisions and said they weren't for resale. But OTT couldn't imagine why the hell somebody's need that power in Costa Rica. 3 Crays, Grant said. Is that a kind of computer? Morris nodded. Very powerful supercomputers, to put it in perspective. 3 Crays represent more computing power than any other privately held company in America. And InGen sent the machines to Costa Rica. You have to wonder why. I give up. Why? Grant said. Nobody knows. And the hoods are even more worrisome, Morris continued. Hoods are automated gene sequencers, machines that work out the genetic code by themselves. So they're so new that they haven't even been put on the restricted lists yet. But any genetic engineering lab is likely to have one. If it can afford the $500,000 price tag. He flipped through his notes. Well, it seems InGen shipped 24 hood sequencers to their island in Costa Rica. 24, so if each gene sequencer is $500,000, that's $12 million worth of gene sequencer machines. Imagine having that kind of money. Again, they said it was a transfer within divisions and not an export, Morris said. There wasn't much that OTT could do. They're not officially concerned with use, but InGen was obviously setting up one of the most powerful genetic engineering facilities in the world in an obscure Central American country, a country with no regulations. That kind of thing has happened before. There had already been cases of American bioengineering companies moving to another country so they would not be hampered by regulations and rules. The most flagrant, Morris explained, was the Biosyn rabies case. In 1986, Genetic Biosyn Corporation of Cupertino tested a bioengineered rabies vaccine on a farm in Chile. They didn't inform the government of Chile or the farm workers involved. They simply released the vaccine. The vaccine consisted of live rabies virus, genetically modified to be non-virulent, but the virulence hadn't been tested. Biosyn didn't know whether the rabies virus could cause rabies or not. Even worse, the virus had been modified. Ordinarily, you couldn't contract rabies unless you were bitten by an animal, but Biosyn modified the rabies virus to cross the pulmonary alveoli. The pulmonary ravioli? You could get an infection just inhaling it. Oh. Biosyn staffers brought this live rabies virus down to Chile in a carry-on bag on a commercial airline flight. Morris often wondered what could have happened if the capsules had broken open during the flight. Everybody on the plane might have been infected with rabies. It was outrageous. It was irresponsible. It was criminally negligent. But no action was taken against Biosyn. The Chilean farmers who unwittingly risked their lives were ignorant peasants. The government of Chile had an economic crisis to worry about, and the American authorities had no jurisdiction. So Louis Dodson, the geneticist responsible for the test was still working at Biosyn. Biosyn was still as reckless as ever, and other American companies were hurrying to set up facilities in foreign countries that lacked sophistication about genetic research. Countries that perceived genetic engineering to be like any other high-tech development, and thus welcomed it to their lands, unaware of the dangers it posed. So, that's why we begin our investigation of InGen, Morris said, about 3 weeks ago. And what have you actually found? Grant said. Not much, Morris admitted. When I go back to San Francisco, we'll probably have to close the investigation, and I think I'm about finished here. He started packing up his briefcase. By the way, what does juvenile hyperspace mean? That's just a fancy label for my report, Grant said. Hyperspace is a term for a multi-dimensional space, like three-dimensional tic-tac-toe. If you were to take all the behaviors of an animal, its eating and movement and sleeping, you could plot the animal within the multi-dimensional space. Some paleontologists refer to the behavior of an animal as occurring in an ecological hyperspace. Juvenile hyperspace would just refer to the behavior of juvenile dinosaurs, if you wanted to be as pretentious as possible. At the far end of the trailer, the phone rang. Ellie answered it. She said, "He's in a meeting right now. Can he call you back?" Morris snapped his briefcase shut and stood. "Thanks for your help and the beer," he said. "No problem." Grant walked with Morris down the trailer to the door at the far end. Morris said, "Did Hammond ever ask for any physical materials from your site? Bones or eggs or anything like that?" "No," Grant said. "Dr. Sattler mentioned you do some genetic work here." "Well, not exactly," Grant said. "When we remove fossils that are broken, or for some other reason not suitable for museum preservation, we send the bones out to a lab that grinds them up and tries to extract proteins for us. The proteins are then identified, and the report is sent back to us." "Which lab is that?" Morris asked. "Medical Biologic Services in Salt Lake." "How'd you choose them?" "Competitive bids." "The lab has nothing to do with InGen?" Morris asked. "Not that I know," Grant said. They came to the door of the trailer. Grant opened it and felt the rush of hot air from outside. Morris paused to put on his sunglasses. "One last thing," Morris said. "Suppose InGen wasn't really making a museum exhibit. Is there anything else they could have done with the information in the report you gave them?" Grant laughed. "Sure, they could feed a baby hadrosaur." Morris laughed too. A baby hadrosaur. That'd be something to see. How big were they? "About so," Grant said, holding his hands 6 inches apart. "Squirrel-sized." "And how long before they become full-grown?" 3 years, Grant said, give or take. Morris held out his hand. "Well, thanks again for your help." "Take it easy driving back," Grant said. He watched for a moment as Morris walked back toward the car, then closed the trailer door. Grant said, "What do you think?" Ellie shrugged. "Naive." "You like the part where John Hammond is the evil arch-villain?" Grant laughed. "John Hammond's about as sinister as Walt Disney. By the way, who called? Oh, Ellie said. It was a woman named Alice Levin. She works at Columbia Medical Center. You know her? Grant shook his head. No. Well, it was something about identifying some remains. She wants you to call her back right away. That's the end of that chapter. And I need more water in my mouth. It is drier than the Sahara. I'll be right back. I'm back. We continue. I think I have time for maybe one more chapter today, and then we can continue it tomorrow. Okay, this chapter is called Skeleton. Ellie Sattler brushed a strand of blonde hair back from her face and turned her attention to the acid baths. She had 6 in a row at molar strengths from 5 to 30%. She had to keep an eye on the stronger solutions because they would eat through the limestone and begin to erode the bones. And infant dinosaur bones were so fragile. She marveled that they had been preserved at all after 80 million years. She listened idly as Grant said, "Miss Levin, this is Alan Grant. What's this about a... You have a what? A what?" He began to laugh. "Oh, I doubt that very much, Miss Levin. No, I really don't have time, I'm sorry." "Well, I'd take a look at it, but I can pretty much guarantee it's a basilisk lizard. But, yes, you could do that. All right, send it now." Grant hung up and shook his head. "These people," Ellie said. What's it about?" "Some lizard she's trying to identify," Grant said. "She's going to fax me an x-ray." He walked over to the fax and waited as the transmission came through. "Incidentally, I've got a new find for you. A good one." "Yes," Grant nodded. "Found it just before the kids showed up. On South Hill, Horizon 4. Infant velociraptor. Jaw and complete dentition. So there's no question about identity. And the site looks undisturbed. We might even get a full skeleton." "That's fantastic," Ellie said. "How young?" "Young," Grant said. 2, maybe 4 months at most." "And it's definitely a velociraptor?" "Definitely," Grant said. "Maybe our luck has finally turned." For the last 2 years at Snakewater, the team had excavated only duck-billed hadrosaurs. They already had evidence for vast herds of these grazing dinosaurs, roaming the Cretaceous plains in groups of 10 or 20,000, as buffalo would later roam. But increasingly the question that faced them was, where were the predators? They expected predators to be rare, of course. Studies of predator-prey populations in the game parks of Africa and India suggested that, roughly speaking, there was one predatory carnivore for every 400 herbivores. That meant a herd of 10,000 duckbills would support only 25 tyrannosaurs. So it was unlikely that they would find the remains of a large predator. But where were the smaller predators? Snakewater had dozens of nesting sites in some places. The ground was literally covered with fragments of dinosaur eggshells. And many small dinosaurs ate eggs. Animals like Dromaeosaurus, Oviraptor, Velociraptor, and Colurus. Predators 3 to 6 feet tall must have been found here in abundance, but they had discovered none so far. Perhaps this Velociraptor skeleton did mean their luck had changed, and an infant. Ellie knew that one of Grant's dreams was to study infant rearing behavior in carnivorous dinosaurs, as he had already studied the behavior of herbivores. Perhaps this was the first step toward that dream. "You must be pretty excited," Ellie said. Grant didn't answer. "I said, you must be excited," Ellie repeated. "My God," Grant said. He was staring at the facts. Ellie looked over Grant's shoulder at the X-ray and breathed out slowly. "You think it's an amacicus?" "Yes," Grant said. "Or a triassicus. The skeleton is so light." "But it's no lizard," she said. "No," Grant said. "This is not a lizard. No three-toed lizard has walked on this planet for 200 million years." Ellie's first thought was that she was looking at a hoax, an ingenious, skillful hoax, but a hoax nonetheless. Every biologist knew that the threat of a hoax was omnipresent. The most famous hoax, the Piltdown Man, had gone undetected for 40 years, and its perpetrator was still unknown. More recently, the distinguished astronomer Fred Hoyle had claimed that a fossil-leaked dinosaur, Archaeopteryx, on display in the British Museum was a fraud. It was later shown to be genuine. The essence of a successful hoax was that it presented scientists with what they expected to see, and, to Ellie's eye, the X-ray image of the lizard was exactly correct. The three-toed foot was well balanced, with the medial claw smallest. The bony remnants of the fourth and fifth toes were located up near the metatarsal joint. The tibia was strong and considerably longer than the femur. At the hip, the acetabulum was complete. The tail showed 45 vertebrae. It was a young Percompsognathus. Could this X-ray be faked? "I don't know," Grant said. "But it's almost impossible to fake an X-ray. And Percompsognathus is an obscure animal. Even people familiar with dinosaurs have never heard of it." Ellie read the note. "Specimen acquired on the beach of Cabo Blanco, July 16th. Apparently a howler monkey was eating the animal, and this was all that was recovered." "Oh. It says the lizard attacked a little girl." "I doubt that," Grant said. "But perhaps Percompsognathus was so small and light, we assume it must be a scavenger, only feeding off dead creatures. And you can tell the size," he measured quickly. "It's about 20 centimeters to the hips, which means the full animal would be about a foot tall. About as big as a chicken. Even a child would look pretty fearsome to it. It might bite an infant, but not a child." Ellie frowned at the X-ray image. "You think this could really be a legitimate rediscovery?" she said. "Like the coelacanth?" "Maybe," Grant said. "The coelacanth was a 5-foot-long fish thought to have died out 65 million years ago, until a specimen was pulled from the ocean in 1938. But there were other examples. The Australian mountain pygmy possum was known only from fossil until a live one was found in a garbage can in Melbourne. And a 10,000-year-old fossil fruit bat from New Guinea was described by a zoologist who not long afterwards received a living specimen in the mail. But could it be real?" she persisted. "What about the age?" Grant nodded. The age is a problem. Most rediscovered animals were rather recent additions to the fossil record, 10 or 20,000 years old. Some were a few million years old. In this case, the coelacanth, 65 million years old. But the specimen they were looking at was much, much older than that. Dinosaurs had died out in the Cretaceous period, 65 million years ago. They had flourished as the dominant life form on the planet in the Jurassic, 190 million years ago. And they had first appeared in the Triassic, roughly 220 million years ago. It was during the early Triassic period that Prochromsignathus had lived, a time so distant that our planet didn't even look the same. All the continents were joined together in a single landmass called Pangaea, which extended from the north to the South Pole. A vast continent of ferns and forests with a few large deserts. The Atlantic Ocean was a narrow lake between what would become Africa and Florida. The air was denser. The land was warmer. There were hundreds of active volcanoes, and it was in this environment that Prochromsignathus lived. Well, Ellie said, we know animals have survived. Crocodiles are basically Triassic animals living in the present. Sharks are Triassic. So we know it has happened before. Grant nodded. And the thing is, he said, how else do we explain it? It's either a fake, which I doubt, or else it's a rediscovery. What else could it be? The phone rang. Alice Levin again, Grant said. Let's see if she'll send us the actual specimen. He answered it and looked at Ellie, surprised. Yes, I'll hold for Mr. Hammond. Yes, of course. Hammond? What does he want? Ellie said. Grant shook his head and then said into the phone, Yes, Mr. Hammond. Yes, it's good to hear your voice too. Yes, he looked at Ellie. Oh, you did? Oh, yes. Is that right? He cupped his hand over the mouthpiece and said, Still as eccentric as ever, you've got to hear this. Grant pushed the speaker button, and Ellie heard a raspy old man's voice speaking rapidly. Hell of an annoyance from some EPA fellow. Seems to have gone off half-cocked, all on his own, running around the country talking to people, stirring up things. I don't suppose anybody's come to see you way out there. As a matter of fact, Grant said, somebody did come to see me. Hammond snorted. I was afraid of that. A smart-ass kid named Morris. Yes, his name was Morris, Grant said. He's going to see all our consultants, Hammond said. He went to see Ian Malcolm the other day, you know, the mathematician in Texas. That's the first I knew of it. We're having one hell of a time getting a handle on this thing. It's typical of the way government operates. There isn't any complaint. There isn't any charge. Just harassment from some kid who's unsupervised and is running around at the taxpayer's expense. Did he bother you? Disrupt your work? No, he didn't bother me. Well, that's too bad, in a way, Hammond said. Because I'd try and get an injunction to stop him if he had. As it is, I had our lawyers call over at EPA to find out what the hell the problem is. The head of the office claims he didn't know there wasn't any investigation. You figured that one out. Damned bureaucracy is all it is. Hell, I think the kid's trying to get down to Costa Rica, poke around, get onto our island. You know we have an island down here. No, Grant said, looking at Ellie. I didn't know. Oh yes, we bought it and started our operation, 4 or 5 years ago now. I forget exactly. Called Isla Nublar, Big Island, hundreds miles offshore. Going to be a biological preserve. Wonderful place. Tropical jungle. You know, you ought to see it, Dr. Grant. Sounds interesting, Grant said, but actually, it's almost finished now, you know, Hammond said. I've sent you some material about it. Did you get my material? No, but we're pretty far from... Maybe it'll come today. Look it over. The island's just beautiful. It's got everything. We've been in construction now 30 months. You can imagine. Big park. Opens in September next year. You really ought to go see it. It sounds wonderful, but... As a matter of fact, Hammond said, I'm going to insist you see it, Dr. Grant. I know you'd find it right up your alley. You'd find it fascinating. I'm in the middle of, Grant said. Say, I'll tell you what, Hammond said, as if the idea had just occurred to him. I'm having some of the people who consulted for us go down there this weekend. Spend a few days and look it over, at our expense, of course. It'd be terrific if you'd give us your opinion. I couldn't possibly, Grant said. Oh, just for a weekend, Hammond said, with the irritating, cheery persistence of an old man. That's all I'm talking about, Dr. Grant. I wouldn't want to interrupt your work. I know how important that work is. Believe me, I know that. Never interrupt your work. But you could hop on down here this weekend and be back on Monday. No, I couldn't, Grant said. I've just found a new skeleton and... Yes, fine, but I still think you should come, Hammond said, not really listening. And we've just received some evidence for a very puzzling and remarkable find, which seems to be a living procomsignathan. A what? Hammond said, slowing down. I didn't quite get that. You said a living procomsignathan. Yes, that's right, Grant said. It's a biological specimen, a partial fragment of an animal collected from Central America. A living animal. You don't say, Hammond said. A living animal? How extraordinary. Yes, Grant said. We think so too. So you see, this isn't the time for me to be leaving. Central America, did you say? Yes. Where in Central America is it from? Do you know? A beach called Cabo Blanco. I don't know exactly where. I see. Hammond cleared his throat. And when did this, specimen arrive in your hands? Just today. Today, I see. Today. I see. Yes. Hammond cleared his throat again. Grant looked at Ellie and mouthed, What's going on? Ellie shook her head. Sounds upset. Grant mouthed, See if Morris is still here. She went to the window and looked out, but Morris's car was gone. She turned back. On the speaker, Hammond coughed. Ah, Dr. Grant, have you told anybody about it yet? No. Good. That's good. Well, yes, I'll tell you frankly, Dr. Grant. I'm having a little problem about this island. This EPA thing is coming at just the wrong time. How's that? Grant said. Well, we've had our problems and some delays. Let's just say I'm under a little pressure here, and I'd like you to look at this island for me. Give me your opinion. I'll be paying you the usual weekend consultant rate of $20,000 a day. That'd be $60,000 for 3 days. And if you can spare Dr. Sattler, she'll go at the same rate. We need a botanist. What do you say? Ellie looked at Grant as he said, Well, Mr. Hammond, that much money would fully finance our expeditions for the next 2 summers. Good, good, Hammond said blandly. He seemed distracted now, his thoughts elsewhere. I want this to be easy. Now, I'm sending the corporate jet to pick you up at that private airfield east of Chateau. You know the one I mean. It's only about 2 hours' drive from where you are. You be there at 5 p.m. tomorrow, and I'll be waiting for you. Take you right down. Can you and Dr. Sattler make that plane? I guess we can. Good. Pack lightly. You don't need passports. I'm looking forward to it. See you tomorrow, Hammond said, and he hung up. Very different from the movie. I kind of want to do another chapter. It's only a couple pages. Yeah, we'll do another chapter. Midday sun streamed into the San Francisco law offices of Cowan, Swain, and Ross, giving the room a cheerfulness that Donald Gennaro did not feel. He listened on the phone and looked at his boss, Daniel Ross, cold as an undertaker in his dark pinstripe suit. I understand, John, Gennaro said, and Grant agreed to come. Good, good. Yes, that sounds fine to me. My congratulations, John. He hung up the phone and turned to Ross. We can't trust Hammond anymore. He's under too much pressure. The EPA is investigating him. He's behind schedule on his Costa Rican resort, and the investors are getting nervous. There have been too many rumors of problems down there. Too many workmen have died, and now this business about a living precomsec whatever on the mainland. What does that mean? Ross said. Maybe nothing, Gennaro said. But Hamachi is one of our principal investors. I got a report last week from Hamachi's representative in San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica. According to the report, some new kind of lizard is biting children on the coast. Ross blinked. New lizard? Yes, Gennaro said. We can't screw around with this. We've got to inspect that island right away. I've asked Hammond to arrange independent site inspections every week for the next 3 weeks. And what does Hammond say? He insists nothing is wrong on the island, claims he has all those security precautions. But you don't believe him, Ross said. No, Gennaro said. I don't. Donald Gennaro had come to Cowan, Swain, from a background in investment banking. Cowan, Swain's high-tech clients from frequently needed blah blah blah. I can't read. Swain's high-tech clients frequently needed capitalization, and Gennaro helped them find the money. One of his first assignments, back in 1982, had been to accompany John Hammond while the old man, then nearly 70, put together the funding to start the InGen Corporation. They eventually raised almost $1 billion, and Gennaro remembered it was a wild ride. Hammond's a dreamer, Gennaro said. A potentially dangerous dreamer, Ross said. We should never have gotten involved. What is our financial position? The firm, Gennaro said, owns 5%. General or limited? General. Ross shook his head. We should never have done that. It seemed wise at the time, Gennaro said. Hell, it was 8 years ago. We took it in lieu of some fees, and, if you remember, Hammond's plan was extremely speculative. He was really pushing the envelope. Nobody really thought he could have pulled it off. But apparently he has, Ross said. In any case, I agree that an inspection is overdue. What about your site experts? I'm starting with experts Hammond already hired as consultants early on in the project. Gennaro tossed a list onto Ross's desk. First group is a paleontologist, a paleobotanist, and a mathematician. They go down this weekend. I'll go with them. Will they tell you the truth? Ross said. I think so. None of them had much to do with the island, and one of them, the mathematician, Ian Malcolm, was openly hostile to the project from the start. Insisted it would never work, could never work. And who else? Just a technical person, the computer system analyst, review the park's computers and fix some bugs. He should be there Friday morning. Fine, Ross said. You're making the arrangements? Hammond asked to place the calls himself. I think he wants to pretend that he's not in trouble, that it's just a social invitation, showing off his island. All right, Ross said, but just make sure it happens. Stay on top of it. I want this Costa Rican situation resolved within a week. Ross got up and walked out of the room. Gennaro dialed, heard the whining hiss of a radio phone. Then he heard a voice say, Grant here. Hi, Dr. Grant. This is Donald Gennaro. I'm the General Counsel for InGen. We talked a few years back. I don't know if you remember. I remember, Grant said. Well, Gennaro said, I just got off the phone with John Hammond, who tells me the good news that you're coming down to our island in Costa Rica. Yes, Grant said. I guess we're going down there tomorrow. Well, I just wanted to extend my thanks to you for doing this on short notice. Everybody at InGen appreciates it. We've asked Ian Malcolm, who, like you, was one of the early consultants, to come down as well. He's the mathematician at UT in Austin. John Hammond mentioned that, Grant said. Well, good, Gennaro said. And I'll be coming too, as a matter of fact. By the way, the specimen you found of a procon... what is it? Proconsignathus, Grant said. Yes. Do you have the specimen with you, Dr. Grant? The actual specimen? No, Grant said. I've only seen an x-ray. The specimen is in New York. A woman from Columbia University called me. Well, I wonder if you could give me the details on that, Gennaro said. Then I can run down that specimen for Mr. Hammond, who is very excited about it. I'm sure you want to see the actual specimen too. Perhaps I can even get it delivered to the island while you're all down there, Gennaro said. Grant gave him the information. Well, that's fine, Dr. Grant, Gennaro said. My regards to Dr. Sattler. I look forward to meeting you and him tomorrow. And Gennaro hung up. He's about to do some sneaky shit about that specimen. I just know it. I just know it. I'm enjoying the book so far. It's been really nice. I can't wait to read more of it tomorrow. I wonder if I have anyone live right now. If you guys stick around and we can find somebody to raid. Let me see if anyone I'm following is live and doing something interesting. We've got Minecraft. She's been up for a good while, though I don't know how long she'll be streaming for. Let's see. What if I stick in the ASMR category? Let's see. Let's see. To see, yeah. I guess. Let's see. Trying to find someone who hasn't been on for a super long time. Cherryberry Pie, hello. How are you? Cherryberry. I was just reading, Jurassic Park. We're a few chapters in now. I'm doing pretty good. I'm planning on doing an art stream next week. But I don't know what I should paint, so I'm hoping that maybe I'll get an idea from Jurassic Park on something to paint. Maybe I'll paint a dinosaur. Or maybe I'll see something this weekend that I'll want to paint next week. Maybe I'll paint my cat. We'll see, I don't know yet. I'm actually going to end soon. I'm looking for somebody to raid in the ASMR category. I'm trying to make more ASMR friends. A lot of these people are like super, like large though. Oh, oops. Where did that one go? Where'd she go? I was just looking at one. It disappeared. Did she go offline? No, it's right there. I found it again. Let's see, this one. don't think this one. Let's go back. Let's continue our search. Maybe this one. This one's kind of cute. She's a big girl streamer though. Oh, her stuff is cute. Oh. This goes similar size. Papa. Okay, I think I've decided on one. Not that one. Scroll. Wait, what happened? Did they disappear? Oh no. What happened? Oh, I think it was this one. I don't hear anything. Why is it so hard to raid people? I'm just gonna raid someone I know. It's fine. It's always so hard to raid someone. I'll just go ahead and send you to Minecraft. She's another cozy streamer. My name is the Beaker. She's playing Minecraft. So she's been streaming for so many hours already. I don't know if she's gonna stop. I don't know how long she plans on streaming for. But hopefully she's gonna keep going for a little while after I end stream. Okay, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. It was it was very chill. It was very chill, it was very nice. It's always nice talking to you guys. I will be back around the same time tomorrow to read some more Jurassic Park. And it will actually be a longer stream. Okay. I'll see you guys next time. Okay. If you're here, please hop onto the raid. I wanna send all my little lovelies who stuck around over to my friend the Baker. Okay. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.